to come into the room. Thank you. If you would like, by all means, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Use the chat for questions and to say hello, and to let us know how you're feeling. It's a bit wild right now, I recognize. So let us know how you're doing so we can all give each other a hug and settle in to our webinar today. I'm going to wait until 9:03 and then introduce myself and get us going. So welcome. Hi, Lindsay. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Hi, Maria. Always good to see you, friend. All right, so let me go ahead and give us a little intro here. My name is Bridgette Picou. I am the Stakeholder Liaison for the Well Project, and I would like to welcome you into session 4. We're already at session 4 of our Watch 2.0 series. Watch stands for Women's Advocacy and Treatment Coalition on HIV. We are so excited to have you join us. This one is entitled Wellness in Action, Sexual Health, Pleasure, and HIV Across the Life Course. This is going to be an amazingly entertaining and insightful conversation. Two of my favorite folks are here. I do want to tell you a little bit about us, who we are, and what we do. This is part of our She Her They program. And thank you again for joining us. Olivia, can we go to the next slide? Perfect. So about the Well Project, in case you don't know us, I'm not going to read the whole slide, but basically we are a nonprofit and our mission is to change the course of the HIV/AIDS pandemic through a unique focus on women and girls across the gender spectrum. We've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I've been with the Well Project for about 2, and it's actually closer to 3 now. And it's probably one of the best decisions I could have made. So our focus is education, information, community support, advocacy and leadership, collaborative engagement, and of course, women-focused HIV research and information. Next slide. So our Watch 2.0 series is based on a successful run that we had called A Place at the Table. So we are bringing together folks who do advocacy work in different aspects and sections, and just tapping into their expertise to help us gain some insights. If you are a person who's thinking about becoming an advocate or just want to strengthen your advocacy skills, this is absolutely the series for you. I'm a big fan of Each One Teach One. And so if you are joining us again for a second, a third, or even for the 4th time, please make sure next time you bring someone with you. These are recorded. They're available for 30 days after the session to give you a chance to rewatch them. Anyone who stays for all 4 sessions, takes part, and does the surveys is eligible for a certificate of completion that we'll be sending out. This particular episode is supported by VIV's Healthcare Positive Action Grant Program. So we appreciate VIV and all that they do for the community. Next slide. So our agenda for today, welcome, which I just did. We're going to talk about reproductive justice. Sexual pleasure is important. Why? We all know why, because it feels good and it's good for your mental health. Rediscovering pleasure, which will be a discussion, and then we're going to close out. Next slide. This is my favorite part, is I get to introduce my people, my loves, the most fierce advocates that I know around sexual pleasure and sexual positivity, and just in general, wonderful, amazing women. So I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves. Miss Kim, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey everyone, can y'all hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Kim Canady. Um, a little bit about myself. I hate long walks on the beach. My favorite color is purple. I call myself a pleasure sexual activist. Also have other titles. Born Positive. I represent the Well Project, Conversations with Kim, which is my company. Which, sorry guys, I'm all over the place today, but I'm making it happen. So my company is Conversations with Kim, where we focused on sexual pleasure, but reproductive justice around throughout the whole lifespan of not just women, but also with men, um, with Black and Brown people. Um, yeah, that's a little bit about me. Oh, I also represent the Dandelion Inc. I'm with them on communications. I'm with a lot of people. So if I didn't mention y'all, please know that y'all are in my heart. I'm just with like a lot of people right now, but I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. You are and a valued member of our CAB. And Miss Marnina, who was on our CAB and is not anymore, but is still gracious enough to be with us. Miss Marnina, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Bridgette. I'm so happy to be with my sisters today. My name is Marnina. I typically go by Marnina the Queen. I use she and her pronouns. I am a reproductive justice advocate. I'm an entrepreneur. I am an organizer. I currently serve as the co-executive director of Positive Women's Network USA, where we fight for the rights, dignity, and leadership of women and girls living with HIV. And beyond advocacy, I'm a lover. I am a friend. My favorite title is Auntie because I love my nieces. I'm all about Black liberation and also like sexual wellness and sexual health. So this is my jam today. This is actually my favorite meeting of the day. And I was so excited when Kim hit me up about this because I love to talk about sex. Like, I feel like we got so much going on negative in the world right now. And so to be amongst y'all and to really talk about like sex and pleasure in sex and HIV, oh, this is my jam. And I can't wait to do
Amen.
this alongside Kim because I know Kim gonna tear it up today.
Listen, I am supposed to be moderating, but I think I'm going to sit back, enjoy the ride, and basically just keep us on time and let y'all do what y'all do. I mean, this is kind of, what I like to do too, but I'm charter. I'll let y'all
And that's why you're
take the
here.
front.
And
I mean,
that is why you're here. It's a conversation.
yeah. And I love that we
Yeah.
are representing women from different places in our lives, different ages in our lives, different experiences. And so hold on to y'all hats in the comments and in the watch section because it's about to get live. I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and take over. Next slide, Olivia.
So, sex, pleasure, freedom, and HIV. That's something that you do not hear anybody really talking about. With first off, you always hear HIV. You don't hear the word freedom in anything. I don't even think we even feel that we're free right now with everything that's going on. But just sex and pleasure and putting all that together in women, that's something that we don't hear. That's something that is such a taboo conversation that people get uncomfortable. And I'm here to make the uncomfortable comfortable. So sex and pleasure are not often talked about when it comes to HIV. It's time to ask why? Why not? Next slide.
And what is reproductive justice? Reproductive justice at its core, especially for Black women living with HIV, to me, it's all about dismantling barriers, uplifting like our body autonomy. The first time I heard about body autonomy was really in the HIV movement. Like, this is my body. I can do what I want to, how I please to. And creating a world where all women and girls, regardless of their HIV diagnosis, have the power to decide what happens to their bodies, their families, their futures. It's like the right to parent or the right not to parent. And the fight for liberation must include all of our voices and all of our experiences. And it's also to live and to also parent the children we have in safe, sustainable places. And so when I think about reproductive justice, I don't think there's anything in this world that does not touch reproductive justice.
I love the fact that we're looking at it through a lens that is not just about um, reproductive decisions, right? It's not just about abortion. It's not just about planning for a child. So that's also something that doesn't get seen a lot in the communities. And when you talk to women about reproductive justice.
Yeah, it's also inclusive of like our trans siblings, like having access to hormone replacement therapy, having access to gender affirming care. All of that is wrapped up in reproductive justice. I recently had a conversation with a girl who we were talking about her wanting to do HIV activism work, and I asked her why, and she said, "Oh, it's about sexual health." And I was like, "Well, have you looked at reproductive justice?" And she thought it was just about abortion. Reproductive justice is so much more. Next slide, please.
So sexual pleasure is important. So I know for me, I haven't had sex in a minute, right? And I'm in a whole relationship. So I'm just gonna keep it a buck. And for me, a minute is like 2 weeks. 2 weeks is too long for me. And I know y'all gonna be like, girl, we it's been a couple years and a couple months. But for me, like that's what I'm sorry, Bridget. My bad. 2 weeks for me is like I gotta live in. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why is this a struggle? Um, but I think when we think about sexual pleasure, we just think about the part with what makes sex feel good. And for me, if my life isn't right, then sex isn't going to feel right. And that's why I'm a big advocate on just not just sexual pleasure, but pleasure, period. Because we kind of miss that part when we think about, is life pleasurable? Am I happy? Am I stressed? Am I financially stable? And all of that plays a part on our everyday living, on if we are going to enjoy sex, because nobody really has a conversation about what does enjoyable sex look like. Now, some of the benefits of having pleasurable sex is lowering stress. I know that I'm stressed out. I want to say 80% of the time. And sometimes I just gotta fiddle and diddle with my, do what I gotta do with my little toy and do what I gotta do sometimes, and then get to where I gotta get to. And sometimes that just makes the day just the day better. Better sleep. Now I'm somebody who suffers from insomnia. So I was gonna say busting a nut, but whatever, busting a nut sometimes just makes me feel a little bit better.
Yes.
It makes me not get stressed out with the people. I'm not gonna scream at you when I'm driving the car because I feel a little bit better because I had a little bit of sleep, and sleep is very important. They talk about that, but we don't talk about why it's important. Increased levels of oxytocin, that love hormone, that's important. Just clearing your mind, like that's when you release that endorphin, it's
Yeah.
it's it's magic, baby. That just puts everything else into a whole different space. And sometimes, we rely on the other person. But for me, I'm not going to just rely on the other person, that whoever I decide that I would want to be with, it's I got to take that control, and I got to take that power into knowing what I like and what makes me feel good and what's pleasurable to me before I say, hey, I need you to touch here, lick here, move here, because I need to know what makes me feel good so I can give those instructions if they don't already know. Um, Next slide.
It's nothing better to me, Kim, than like a really good nut and some sleep. Like, and I could do this by myself for about 5 minutes. I can get it done, roll over, go to bed.
Don't let you fall asleep with it right next to you, because I've gotten caught with, they're gonna be like, what kind of conversation is a thorough conversation? I have gotten caught where like it's the middle of the night and my husband is working overtime and I reach over because it's right there. The lube is here and the vibrator's here. And I have fallen asleep with it just chilling right there. Like, don't even
No.
cut it off, vibration died. And I'm like, damn, now I gotta go find a charger because I can't find a charger for anything. But like it be like that sometimes, and then still hope and pray that my son don't try to open the door if I remember to lock the door. Like it's that sleep,
Yes.
that that get up
Listen,
of the day.
Yes.
listen, my grandson, when he first came to live with me a few years ago, actually found my personal massager.
No.
And when I say that, listen, that boy ran around playing with that thing like it was a lightsaber and a sword, and figured out how to turn it on and was holding it against his throat so he could make his voice change. And I think that my son wanted to melt into the floor. Not so much because my son was playing with it, but I think he was just mortified at the idea that his mother actually had one. And
Yeah.
yo, that's important, right? It's really empowering. And it gives us a sense of not just autonomy, but the power to be able to negotiate pleasurable sex, right? Like
Mhm.
that's really important. Yes. But yeah, I'm still embarrassed about that.
Don't be embarrassed. I was embarrassed when I feel like power. Now, when did the people in your family or the kids find your vibrator? My son found this was before he thought it was so we have all different assortments. We have the ones that stick on the wall and the one that, yeah, girl, my this is not a game over here. I got different ones that vibrate, different sizes, like butt plugs. It's like a whole bunch of things, right? Um, and my son went into it was in a purple bag. I told you my favorite color is purple. All of my vibrators are purple too. So it looks like an actual real toy. And he went into the purple bag and then got it. And I was cleaning up his room and I saw the one that sticks on the wall just chilling. And I was like, what? But it was wrapped around like it had like he made a scarf out of it, like he had a scarf around it. Like for him, it was like a toy. Granted, he was like 6 or 7, but it was just like, so now I need a safe because you digging and stuff, and now you finding stuff, which made me realize how free we are, and I still don't got that safe. And my son is 15. It's just like not to go into that drawer. But it's the freedom that I am able to give to my son and normalize sex and sexual pleasure and experimenting to what makes me feel good and makes us feel good and not feeling any shame about it. And then opening that up to a conversation about, as he got older and he's looking for stuff and he opens up the drawer and it's like, and I'm like, why are we yelling? Like, it's not like the first time you haven't seen it. Like you've seen this before. And it's just like, all right, I won't touch this drawer. And it's like, all right, but it's nothing that kind of like HIV. We make HIV in this house as normal as possible. And the same it goes when it comes to sex as well. Because again, we don't normalize these things. We make it so taboo. We make it so shameful to be somebody to want to have sex or at least talk about having sex and pleasurable sex at that.
Here's my question for you, both of you. And again, we're talking about different stages, right? You've been living with this your whole life. Marnina, you stepped into it at a later age. Did you find that your sense of liberation came after you found out about your diagnosis? Or was it always like that? Was sex normalized in your household as you grew up?
I'll say that I contracted HIV in college. My parents put me on birth control at like 13, 14 to like help regulate my periods. And what I have found is there was no conversations around like body autonomy or pleasure or condom negotiation. And I think that's why I landed with an HIV diagnosis, is because I didn't have control over my own body, or thought that I didn't have control over my own body, my own pleasure. And so my parents did me a disservice by not talking to me about sexual pleasure. That's why when Kim was saying it, my mouth was open like, oh my God, I'm so glad that like you're talking to your baby about pleasure, because that's never a conversation, even to this day, that I've had with my parents. And they know my status. They know I'm open about my status. They know I talk about sexual health and wellness. But it's still not a conversation that I've even had as close as I am to both of my parents. But when we talk about like sexual pleasure and girls and women, I would love for folks to even know how many nerve endings they got in their clitoris, because it's still so many women living with HIV who are abstinent and not having sex because of their shame, guilt, and also stigma around HIV. And it makes me so sad, because I have felt, to answer your question, Bridgette, I felt so liberated since learning about my diagnosis and being around y'all, like being around other women living with HIV who have like been like, girl, fuck that. You need to be having good sex. You You need to be busting it open, baby. And so I live in a state that has HIV criminalization laws, where if I don't disclose my status, I could be going to jail for it. And so I do tell folks my status, baby. I'm gonna text it to you, however I need to get it to you. But baby, just know when we get in this bed, you gonna get this work. And we not even here until I get my pleasure. Period.
That part. That part.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh,
And then go ahead, Kim, and then when you're done, Kim, Marnina, I want you to talk about what condom negotiation is because you mentioned it, and I think
Okay.
that's important to highlight. So Kim, go ahead, tell us about your perspective on that.
so I grew up in a very religious household. My grandma was a reverend of her own church. We had service inside the living room when her storefront church kept getting breaking into. Like it was always devotion service, Sunday school. It was always something inside of like nonstop. And I grew up Pentecostal. So if you are not aware of what Pentecostal is, it's almost as strict as 7 Day Adventist, and I kind of feel like it's a little bit more, just from my experience as a child. So sex was not something that we talked about. That is the devil's work. It was not normalized at all. If you even thought about, if my grandma ever thought that you were doing anything, she was yelling at you a homemonger. Like it was like an old school word, like down south kind of thing. So for me, sex wasn't normalized. It was something that I feared, and including me being somebody who was born positive, I always heard stories about how people were getting abused. These are my friends, like who were getting punched in the face for disclosing their status, and being in DV relationships because like the person made them feel special and then they started abusing them. And this is as young as me being 16 and I'm hearing these stories. So when it came to me being born positive and feeling comfortable with my body and being a plus size girl. Like I was not the biggest, but I ain't the smallest. So I always had, I got teased. If you saw me as a kid compared to me now, and the amount of insecurities and low self-esteem that I had, for people telling me what I should believe in myself, just on like my appearance of somebody with big lips or somebody who is rounder and fuller than everybody else. I thought that I was the biggest person in the whole world and nobody would love me. Then HIV came and played a part because I always felt like the ugly duckling. I never saw my beauty. Then the HIV coupled with it was nobody really is gonna want me. So it took for me to honestly be with my husband, who we've been together since I was 16, and him actually and it sucks. I had to get my confidence from a man to tell me that you're beautiful and you're loved, and then I was open to hear it from other people. And honestly, therapy that really got me to say, "No, girl, you a baddie. You cute. You not ugly, and you not even if you was big, you ain't that big, and." You even if you was that big, you could still make it cute because all these people they look thinking that they want the skinny people, but they really don't. They really want the good big girls. They want the chubby ones, okay? And they acting like it that they don't want it, but they do. So, and I had to really believe that and feel it and practice that for me to be comfortable and want to talk about this because nobody really talked about it in my family. So I wanted to be that person that I didn't have.
I love that you said practice that, right? Like practice makes perfect, even though there's no perfect, but practicing something, um, I very much was a fake it till you make it kind of girl. Like you weren't going to know that I was
Hmm.
feeling, insecure or not feeling attractive or not feeling whatever. I was going to step up and be what I wanted to be until I became what I wanted to be. Practice. So Marnina, I'm gonna let you address condom negotiation, and then we have a really good question in the Q&A that I'll ask after. So go ahead.
I would have never guessed, Kim, that you struggle with self-esteem like when you were a kid. You are gorgeous. Like your
Oh,
hair,
thank
your
you.
skin, like, yes, I would have never guessed that, but I'm glad that
Girl,
you
until early
did.
20s.
Wow.
Until I wouldn't even say early 20s. I would say my confidence, girl, I faked it. It's until I want to say late 20s actually, because I gave birth and then I just
Mhm.
felt extra fat. And my hair, this natural stuff, before I was natural before everybody else became natural.
Oh, yeah.
So I was getting, oh, your hair's nappy. Oh, why would you? It's unkept. So I felt like a lot of the trends that is going on now, like I was getting hit with all of that. And I really was like, no, I like it. This is what I like. I'm not doing what you want. I'm not paying for a perm. I'm not doing this because who got the money to upkeep that? And my hair gonna fall out. Like it was just like little things. But now, girl, I be fighting for my life sometimes over here in New York. We be having to do affirmations, girl. Like you are wonderful, you are pretty. Yeah.
Wow. I would have never guessed that. But yeah, I'm glad that you know that you the shit, baby. So I know Bridget wanted me to talk about condom negotiation. Condom negotiation refers to like the communication strategies or behaviors that you can use to like really discuss with your partner about like condom usage when you are going to engage in like sexual activities with someone, or even if like you're talking about and maybe we should come up with a new term because PrEP and PEP are also like tools in the toolbox to utilize that you can use so that you can prevent yourself from contracting STIs or HIV. And so it's really like this way that you can talk with your partner about effective ways of communication to really talk about like sexual consent and sexual pleasure. And like it gives you a way to talk about direct communication with someone. And also to prevent you from becoming emotionally coerced. Uh, Back in the day, there used to be this crazy saying that dudes would say, "Oh, if you love me, you would take the condom off," like stuff like that. Those are ways that you could fight back and be like, "Hey, no, if you love me, then you will protect me. If you love me, then you will make sure that we're both protected." And so those is like some of the strategies that I've learned from like places like Planned Parenthood that really helps me like develop my own thoughts around body autonomy and sexual pleasure. So condom negotiation isn't anything but I guess a cool way to say, baby, let's use this condom and the reasons why we should use it and like some strategies for communication around like condom usage. That's it. Just a fancy
Yeah,
term.
it is. And it is, you said back in the day, child, I'm over 50 and I'm still getting hit with that. So things don't change. They just go around in circles. The question that we had in the chat before we move on was, can we speak to the over sexualization of young girls and our relationship to shame around sex and sexual pleasure? Ooh, that's a that's a mouthful. We are um, heavily over sexualized. The thing about the Black community is that we are um, over sexualized as women, but the community shames that so much. It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? We teach young girls not to be fast and to keep their legs closed, but everything that they see on video, TV, social media is the exact opposite of that. And I really think that it's really gotten worse since the advent of social media. Either of you want to comment on?
I would even say as somebody so in my day job, for those who don't know, I'm a substitute teacher. Um, don't really say that much, but that's my day job. Like I feel like that is the balance I have in order to continue to work in this work, is that I need a job that is outside of HIV. But when I come in, I'm not overstimulated and burnt out. So
The
that's
true
that's what's
Black
helping
Miss
me.
Frizzle.
I re- Thank you. And it's first off, the kids don't even know who Miss Frizzle is, and I dressed up as her as Halloween, and they had no clue who I was, no
No.
clue, and I was so hurt. Only the adults, they just thought I was dressing up in a school bus dress that day, which just talks about my personality. But anyway, and I see so I see that the high schoolers that I work with, and I also see my son, and just like COVID, how COVID, it was a switch when it came to the youth, where the amount of stuff that they had access to, and I can speak on New York, like a lot of the people didn't have accessible internet. So they handed out laptops and tablets to the children so that way they can actually do the work because everything was online for, when COVID, because we're still in COVID, but when the height of COVID happened. And the way these children were having different sex parties and were doing Google Meet, I'm a lick here, you lick here and watch. And like just the amount of danger that a lot of the children were in because they were in unsafe situations. And then you see all of this stuff that's playing on TV because now nobody's really monitoring the internet. It's free range. You go on a Pornhub, you're going everywhere, and they're like all watching this together without anybody breaking things down of like, this is entertainment, they feel that, we saw it when we were growing up where and all three of our different generations where, I wouldn't even say three different generations, but I feel like me and Marnina is not too far in age. I think you're like early 30, right? Yeah.
I'm
And
34.
I'm 2 steps away from 40. Literally, right? Almost there. Um, and the things that we saw, really played a part in how we viewed ourselves and how we saw it, like what sex should be and what our body should be. And, the media played a big part, like Bridgette said, but I think for them, that's all they see, that they have 24-hour access to what they are saying, what you should look like and what you should be and how you should act. And I think it's as we should be pouring more into our children because they're going to be the next ones that's coming up. And we're going to have to really do a whole like turnaround on how we're having this conversation in the next 5 years. I can honestly see the conversation will be different and it's horrible.
Yeah, agreed. Marnie, anything to add, or are we ready to move on?
I also see in the comments someone talking about do we think it's different for bigger Latina or Latinx women? And I will say that I don't feel like there's a difference. I'm not a Latinx woman, but what I can say is that phobia has impacted all of our bodies. Since colonization, white folks have been telling us what standards of beauty are and how we should look and what our proportions should look like. And no shame, but we're different. Our bodies are shaped different. We're more voluptuous. Even like BMIs are heavily screwed to lean towards white folks. And so I'll say that white folks have always impacted like bigger people's bodies by giving us this messaging that our bodies are horrible or disgusting. And I think that Latinx women and white women probably feel the same way that we do on this call about how bigger folks that live in bigger bodies have always been hit with this stereotype that we're lazy or disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim has already said it, like, guys be checking. Like, baby, the men, the girls, everybody be checking for bigger girls. Like, I've even heard like folks in rap lyrics talk about how good like the vagina of a bigger woman is. And baby, I really feel like that's true. I'm a queer woman, so I date women, I date folks with trans experience, and let me tell you, like, I like bigger people because baby, I need some cushion. I need a little pussy. I don't need no little stick rubbing up against me. And now, if that's your thing, I'm not gonna yuck your yum. But for whoever I date, they have to be someone of size. I could not date somebody small. I just couldn't do it personally.
Like I would crush you. Like I feel
Yes.
like, and not because I'm 200 plus, but just because like just aesthetically, I don't think it would work. Like, and my husband is 6'7", so like he's not a fat dude. He's athletically husbandy. He's a teddy bear, but not like teddy, but he is teddy. He got your little. I couldn't see. I
Mm-mm.
couldn't see it. I don't know how that would work. I'd be like, so if I get on top, am I gonna crush you? Am I gonna hurt your? Am I gonna hurt your thighs? Like, how does that work? And then feeling the bones. Now again, to each its own. Some people prefer that. I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah. I've
You
seen
can't leave
girls
that
who
mistake.
say that like thicker girls should be with small men. And I'm like, I need you to know what a role look like, baby. I need for you to like
That's
need for you to do
There's
and
all
so
not be
much I can
scared
say
of it.
here.
And not be
That
scared of it.
that
yeah.
there's so much I can say here, but I'm gonna take my little 53 years and move us right along. I don't want us to forget to talk about U equals U, undetectable is untransmittable. And Marnina, you actually mentioned PrEP and PEP as part of the condom negotiation and how we kind of need to shift that narrative a little bit because those tools are available to us. Um, I don't know. I find for me, U equals U is more about my overall health, but I can't even lie. I do love the fact that I know now knowing that if I'm
Mhm.
undetectable, I don't have to worry about transmission. That does give a certain amount of freedom and ability, I think, to feel empowered. Not everybody feels that way. And that would be my wish for other folks. But, everything takes a little bit of time, right?
Yeah. The only thing I kind of worry about with U equals U is what about the folks that can't reach undetectability? Like our folks that are dandelions, our folks that have been on like meds for a long time. Does that make them feel less than? Sometimes I feel a little bad, but also it is empowering to us who can reach undetectability because I love to be like, hey, I'm undetectable. What's up? Like, I can't
Yeah,
transmit. So I don't know. It's such a tricky thing. What y'all think about it?
that's
I
actually a
used to
question that
hate U
I've
equals U.
raised. Go ahead, Kim. I'll let you. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I used to hate U equals U.
Mm.
Um, trying to because I was somebody who was not virally suppressed. And I felt like it was a club that I did not belong in. And I kind of always so for me before, so I'm an elite controller, somebody who HIV virus does not mutate as fast. So do not need to be on medication. It's a choice to be on medication. So I don't get as sick as some people who might be HIV positive. My HIV virus is just, I call it like the tortoise of the viruses. It's just slow moving. It's doing what it want to do. It's gonna get there when it gets there. Like that's how I explain being an elite controller. Um, and I felt like I was in the middle because my virus is controlled. She's doing what because I call her a she, because she got to be a she. She doing what she doing, right? She's just moving at her own space, but then I don't relate to a lot of other people who are positive because they're on meds or they are undetectable. And I do hit undetectable sometimes, but sometimes it's just like right there. And then I'm not negative. So it's like I ain't that sick, but I'm sick. So I'm in the middle somewhere and it's trying to find that space of, you know, U equals U is a great thing. It allows you to have that freedom to bust it wide open if you want without you like And I was like, I wanna know. I'm tired of living in limbo. Am I good now? Because I was good yesterday. Like what does like I hated that. Like I didn't know where I sat in, like where I fit in. Um and I think that was something why I like fought so hard when it came to U equals U, or even just talking about prep because it was like again being positive since birth, medicine fatigue is real, and it was just like we pumping more medicine. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, why would we want to promote HIV medication for people who are negative? Like that wasn't something that I wanted to promote. Um, and then I still promote it sometimes, and I'm being truthful because I ain't gonna lie, but my husband was on prep and he tried it out for a little bit, and I was on medication and I was undetectable and he was on prep, and then we realized like that wasn't working for us because the side effects for him, which is not for everybody, it didn't work for him. And I was like, I'd rather you not be on that because you don't have to be. And then let me figure out what that looks like. Because we, as a female, we already taken a lot of hits already. And that's why he wanted to get on prep because he's like, you already taking hits left and right as being a Black woman just with your body. Let me help out. And for me, I'm like, well, you don't need to take this. So now we both kind of like suffering. Like, I don't want to be on this. I don't want to be on this. And I'm looking out for you. So again, the messaging, it really depends on, for me, who's promoting. Like, I need to see more of us. And that's something that we say it in little spaces of, we don't see women, we don't see Black women, we don't see brown women on PrEP, or brown women talking about you equals you, but really explaining that it is a lifestyle and it's not just us being undetectable. So we need to talk more about that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop talking. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm long-winded. I'm gonna be quiet.
No,
No,
that's
please
what we're here
don't.
for, right? To have the conversation. That's what we're supposed to be doing. You know, I brought up the same idea that you have, Marnina, about folks who can't reach undetectable. I live and work in a community where there are a lot of long-term survivors. But one of the things that I try to encourage people to remember is that we have come a long way with medications, right? It's not just the fact that we've gone from handfuls of pills to one pill once a day. It is that there are medications that are specifically for folks who are not viremically suppressed to be able to take as a backbone along with whatever they're taking to help them get to undetectable status. There's 4 or 5 of them, 4 that I can think of offhand. But that's a conversation that people should be having with their clinicians and their provider to see if one of those additional newer medications can help them get to undetectable status, even if they weren't able to, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's a little different now. So there are options. We just have to talk about it so that people know that those things are available to them. So this is I knew this was going to be a really good conversation, good, rich conversation. So we are at 9:43. Let's move on to the next slide. So we have some time to take some questions. Let's go. Next slide, Olivia, pretty please.
Nurse Bridgette has entered the chat, baby. I love when Nurse Bridgette.
You like, I don't know, I'm just gonna be quiet. No, you not. Bring
I
it.
can't help it. I
Yeah.
can't help it. This is such a great conversation.
You want to jump on it, or should I?
Sure, I'll
Okay.
jump in. Having pleasurable safe sex experiences, if one chooses, has been identified as a central part of health and well-being by the World Health Organization and other institutes worldwide. Women living with HIV have needs related to sexual desire and pleasure and deserve providers who can talk about that in a positive, non-judgmental way. I will say that my provider, she's a Black woman, and I love the hell out of her. We do TikToks together. We post on her page, my page. She asked me about sex. She asked me who I'm having sex with. So she's always like, "Girl, who you messing around with now? What's the new bae name?" She's always asking me questions. She even has a poster on her wall about the pink pill, which is like a libido pill, like a libido enhancer for women. So like she's all about sexual pleasure. She has dildos in her office. She has free condoms to go, especially like female condoms. I love a good female condom. So I love like a good provider who understands the life cycle of women living with HIV and is able to talk about it. She even asked me like about my vaginal health, like, are you experiencing like any dryness, because she knows that I'm about to hit premenopausal in a couple of, like, you know what I mean, in the next 10 years. So she's asking questions about that. She's asking questions about like discharge or irritation. And I really love that I have that type of provider. Before I had male providers who didn't ask me like exploratory questions about my vaginal health or my vagina. I don't know if it's because she's a woman. I don't know if it's because she's a Black woman, or because she's worked in like public health before. But the fact that we are not a part of the World Health Organization anymore as the US is trash. I will say so myself, but yeah, I love it. I would love to hear though, Kim, like, do you have a provider like that?
I have a white woman as my provider, but she's dope. I shout out every time I go. So first off, like, I found her and I kind of like stalked her because I wanted her, and they said, "Nah, she busy," and I said, "Nah, no, she not." Like, that's going to be my doctor, and she's my doctor. Like, I love the fact that I already have a list of what I want to talk about because I know that time is short, but she doesn't make me feel like time is short. She asked me, "So Kim, how's Robbie? That's my son. How's Big Robert? Okay. And I'm like, boom, check, check. All right, we doing the check-ins with the family. The family is good. All right, so how was this? All right, so are we still with the good birth control? Do you want to switch? Are we thinking about taking it out again? I know that was a conversation. So it's just like picked up and it doesn't feel like she's reading off of a screen. It doesn't feel like she's going through a script. It's personalized. Now she studied that. I want to say she studied it the morning of because she goes in and out every room. So then and like I'm bouncing, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna be right back, and then go over there. So I know that she actually at least makes me feel like she remembers that what's going on with me, and I love that. Like I can talk to her about, listen, sex was a little off, but I think it was me. Like now she just wet all the time, okay? And I don't understand. And she's like, think we're getting at that perimenopause, you're approaching. And I'm like, Lord Jesus, the next step is menopause, and I'm be hot all the time. Like that's, like that's where I'm going. I just don't want to be hot. Like let me be cold, okay? But I have that relationship with her. And I wish that I had that relationship with the other doctor that I had, the other provider. But and it was a Black man, and he just was, you are supposed to have sex with your husband. It's like, sir, I have a toddler. Girl, girl, the
It
way I
is
reported him,
insane.
it was the way I reported him. Because I was like, sir, I got a full-time job. I'm in college. I got a toddler. Who's thinking about doing anything? I don't want to see a penis, smell a penis, or even spell the word penis. I don't want to see none of that. So then I had to report him, and then he wound up not being my doctor anymore. And then I felt out of care because I didn't feel that connection when it came to anybody. Because like, how are you going to tell me when first of all, what you going to tell me outside of my HIV care? And you're not talking to me as if I was a person. So I think that's also something that we kind of miss when it comes to us as clients. We feel that we don't have a choice, and we are just given whoever we're given, and we're supposed to take that. And we don't have a voice when it comes to our providers. But then also providers, I don't think, because of the time restrictions, they only got 15, 20 minutes to talk to you. That pleasure is not the center of what they want to talk about at all. They're not even asking about enjoying life. Do you have a self-care regimen? That's not even a question, but it's a question that I have normalized inside of my healthcare with my provider, that I made sure that that was a priority, because I have to get reminders from everybody in my circle about, girl, just take a day, take a minute, relax, breathe. And that's where that comes back in the beginning of what I was talking about, just pleasure not just being about sex, but pleasure being about life, and having that time for yourself and figuring out what you like, not just sexually, but all around. And I'm happy that my doctor does that though.
That's dope and amazing. Davina, I see that you have your hand up. If you could put your question in the chat for me, pretty please, while we move on to the next slide. And Alina, you asked if the slides will be, the recording will be, the recording of the slides. Yes, they will be available. Absolutely, for you to be able to download and have them at your disposal. And look at that, we at the last slide. And we got time for questions. Man, I love this.
Look at us being productive.
Look at us. So Davina, since we are here at this moment and have this time, let me see if I can, because I'm not sure. Let me see. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? I just asked you to unmute.
Can you hear me?
No. Yes, there you go. Hi.
Hi, I am so sorry that was an accident. I was trying to get the question. I'm sorry, the survey, and not raise my hand. Total
Well,
accident.
thank you for coming on anyway. We appreciate you being here.
You're
The
welcome.
survey, I put it in the chat, and I will put it back, the link in there again, but thank you.
Thank you.
So I have another question while we wait for questions to come up into the chat. I want to know from you all, what has been the best conversation that you've had with your partners about sexual pleasure? Like, what was that moment that made you go, oh, you know what? I think I can do this. Like, it's not as hard as I thought it was, or it's not as bad as I thought it was. What can you think to what that conversation was, or what that looked like? Because I think it's important for us to be able to hear what experiences are and what they look like. Because none of us is an expert, right? We're all always learning from each other, especially in this community. Um, and that D word, um, not the 4-letter one, the disclosure one, trips a lot of people up, right? It feels like a scary thing to a lot of people. So, what was that first conversation that you can think of that made you feel like, I got this, I can talk about this?
When you said the D word, my immediately went to the 4-letter word.
It went straight there. It went
That's why
straight.
I specified.
I'll say
Mind
for
it.
me, my partner works in the healthcare field. And when I met him, y'all, I'm my man person. Now I see why people be loving their mans, maybe because when I tell you this is my man. Okay, anyway. So when we had a conversation, we were talking about um like sex and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, I didn't say I'm living with HIV. I sent him a clip because that's what I always do. I sent him a clip of me talking about my HIV diagnosis on like YouTube or something. And he was like, okay, and he was like, are you undetectable? And I was like, whoa, this is like, that went too well. Who are you? And so that was like my first introduction into like seeing how folks are learning about like HIV and AIDS, like how people are like getting information around like sexual health. And so I was like, okay, this is cool as fuck. And I know our sex about to be bomb because if you are that aware, then you obviously know a hell of a lot. I will say that I have been in situations where people have said like weird things to me about sex, being someone living with HIV. And to me, that's a red flag. One of the questions I ask when I go on dates and stuff is, how do you feel about people living with HIV? Or I'll say something like, I work in HIV. And if they have any like weird, like conversation about it or any weird pauses, I immediately don't enter like continue the conversation with them. Cause it's like, why would I do so?
I'm sorry, I was gonna ask you what was some of the weird stuff, but I know that's gonna eat up time. Cause I'm like, what was the weird stuff they was asking?
They was asking,
I'm out the game.
no, I will tell you, girl. One girl asked me, she was like, so would you ever, if we were mad at each other, would you ever get off your medicine to like make me contract HIV? And it's like, ma'am, that's not how you can't contract from me from the way our genitalia is set up. Like, I don't know if you knew that. People have said the weirdest shit to me before. And they still want to have sex
Okay.
after that. Like, now I'm not in the mood. The hell?
Huh. Okay.
There
I need
is
to know more
like,
because I'm nosy.
that's wild to me. But I've had some wild comments come into me too. Which, oh child, sometimes your mouth falls open and it's like, wait, did you just
Yeah.
anyway? Olivia said, so pleasurable can be about how you use toys. Intimate would involve how a human and also include toys. Pleasurable can be about how you use toys, and intimacy would involve a human and also toys. I agree. I think that's where you were going with that. And yes, I think that is a valid point. But I think that you can have intimacy with yourself, right? Kim, I know you
Yeah.
agree with
So
that.
yeah. So not even offended. You're right. So like I think for me it's so how I view it is I feel like we don't got that much time. Let me try to make this short. The moment I feel like when you date yourself, when it comes to these moments, right? We fall short on what that looks like when it comes to utilizing a toy, because it is an intimate moment. You do create that intimacy, you do set that mood, it's that level of comfortability of allowing yourself to orgasm when using these different toys, or even just using your fingers or different objects. And I say different objects because not every object is a toy. Not everything is created equal. So like you are having that level of intimacy, that level of security that you would have just by yourself, whether that is knowing that you're in a safe space with the door closed or the door open and you set in the mood. I used to set the mood all the time with the I would have the videos on of day 26, Do Not Judge Me, and I would play on YouTube in the back, and then I would put it to surround sound, and the lights would be off, and I would say, so she listens. So I would say her name, go to red light, and I would set the whole moment. Decline, and would set the whole moment. And that's a level of intimacy that I'm giving to myself, but I'm also still giving myself pleasure as well. So it's enjoying the moment, but then also enjoying that aspect of being able to orgasm as well. Because not everybody is able to orgasm with the person that they are with. Some people, clitoral stimulation is a way that they can orgasm with versus just, vaginal or just anal. Sometimes you need both. Sometimes, it's a different aspect of what can make somebody orgasm. And orgasm and come are two different things. So I think that's something that we don't really discuss about. Yeah, I can come, she's getting wet, it's gushing out, but that's not the same as experiencing an orgasm. So that's another conversation, and we only got 3 minutes left.
I want to highlight
Listen.
what Olivia put in the chat too about like there's like this grief and loss of self after your HIV diagnosis, after you experience like hearing that you're living with HIV, and it's real. What I would say to folks who are experiencing this is, like Kim said, take yourself on dates. Love on yourself, do some self-care. Like, and self-care is more than just going to the spa or getting your nails done.
Yes.
Like, it is setting the mood, getting out those toys, playing with yourself, figuring out what your pleasure is like before you invite somebody else in. So you can, like Kim said way early in the conversation, get to know yourself so that you can tell other people how to love on you. And so it took me a while to get there after my diagnosis, probably like 3 or 4 years. But now, baby, I am into the mood of dating myself, loving on myself. Hell, I will bust a nut with myself and be content with being alone or partnered. And so that's what I would say. If intimacy and pleasure go hand in hand. And if you're not receiving pleasure during intimacy, it's a problem.
Absolutely.
And creating those boundaries. That's the other thing.
I was just
It's
about
those
to say.
Was you about to? I'm sorry.
Baby, listen, I was just about to say that. The boundaries are important. Being able to say no if you're not feeling comfortable with something or don't want to do something. And within that self-care process, it really is taking care of your mental health too.
Yeah.
Right? Like coming to terms with your diagnosis and going through that grief process and being settled within yourself makes such a difference for how you approach sex, the way that you disclose, the way that people accept or don't accept you because you've accepted yourself. So all of it ties in together. That was a really good question. I love that. Child, we got less than a minute left. That went so fast.
It did.
And I knew it would.
This is
We
a
need
good
part
time.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we had more time.
Yes. So thank you so much to both of you. I cannot thank you enough. I know that folks enjoyed and were entertained and got something, not just entertained, but learned something, because I certainly did. So thank you both for being here. Thank all of you for being here. Please, please, please take the survey. The link is in the chat. I would love to see you all at our next episode. We will be meeting again next month as part of our 7-part series. Information is available at our website, www.thewellproject.org. You can search Watch 2.0, and we will see you next time. Thank you for being here. And I'm gonna take us on. Bye.
Okay.